Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for another machinist tool pick. This is stuff that I actually picked from a machine shop that I featured a pick a while back, where I went to this machine shop and bought a bunch of stuff. And the story goes that the machine shop had been closed for several years and that the family had decided to sell the building, so they decided to have just a big sale and sell off a whole bunch of stuff. I actually missed a lot of the initial sales that they had, or days where they were there open, and then I ended up finally getting in there and bought a bunch of stuff that was featured, like I said in that previous video. Well, I ended up going back one more time, and this was near the end where they had already, I guess, gone under contract and they needed to get rid of everything that was left in the building. And I ended up getting several items for very little money. Many of them were actually in a pile of stuff that was actually getting ready to go to the scrapyard. They had just taken a bunch of stuff and thrown it in a pile, and if it was metal and they hadn't sold it yet, there was a good possibility that it was in that pile. So they let me and a friend of mine who were there, went with me on this pick. He ended up getting some stuff too. Let us look through that pile and pull out whatever we wanted, and we got this stuff for real cheap. Some of this stuff may end up just being junk after all, but I couldn't resist. So, like for instance, here is a basically this is a lathe, a drive dog, or this is a Morse taper center with this bracket on it for driving a lathe dog for turning between centers. So I figured, well, on the off chance that that will fit one of my lathes, I'll just take a chance on it and take it. So I grabbed that. I recognize this as being one of those grinding jigs. So this is actually to hold a 5C collet. It would have had a closer nut that's missing on the bottom, and this basically is so you can hold a part or a diamond, if you want to dress a wheel, on the mag chuck of your surface grinder. So it's got a slight angle to it, and then it's also got this additional angle built into it. So I don't think I found any other pieces for this, so I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with that. But it does, it's ready-made to hold a 5C, and all you need really is one of these nuts like this to go on here, although so that would kind of get in the way. Although not really. If it's like this, that would still work. This is an old boring bar. An old boring head. It's so filthy, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to find a name on it. But it's got the fine adjust here. Doesn't seem to be completely broken, so not sure exactly why this was in that junk pile. Take a look at that in a bit, see if I can find any sign of a manufacturer. This is a mandrel, or a tapered arbor. Again, you held this between centers, and then if you had a gear blank or something like that, you could press it onto this, and then you could put this in your lathe to turn it, or put this in a dividing head fixture to use on the mill or whatever. This is a complete mystery. I have no idea what this is. Almost appears to be like a handle. I don't know. So, some kind of funky thing. There's a 5C collet right there. This is a depth check. The way this works is, so this has got a taper to it, and it will be able to fit into the hole depending on the diameter of the hole, the further this will be able to move into that hole. And then you take your reading in this window right here. These are often used in clock and watchmaking, I think. Matter of fact, I think the manufacturer of these is, this particular one is made in the USA by the Allied Products Division of, Hamilton Watch Company. So, sometimes these came in sets of multiples for different ranges. And actually, I think we've got, more in there, so let's see. There's a collet with a stop in it. It's an old lathe tool, an Armstrong. Alright, in a recent pick I featured a Starrett, one of these. This is a base for an early surface gauge, and this is the Brown and Sharp version. Would have been nice to have found more pieces to that. Here is the remnants of a boring head. We've got a fine adjustment here that will move this back and forth. We've got a cutter already in there. But what this was mounted to, who knows? A couple of genuine Starrett holders from Last Words, more than likely. And so here's two more of those Hamilton devices. Well, that's for much larger holes. And planer gauge. Looks like it might be just the homemade no-name deal. With two extension rods. Another one of these Starrett pieces. So this is off a mag base or some other indicator holder. Maybe it was even part of the set for that Brown and Sharp. I don't know. And then there was this thing. This is called an IndyCal. I've had these before. So this is an interesting device. And what this does is you mount an indicator on here, and the indicator's point would sit on this little anvil, so to speak. And then this would be an inside caliper. This becomes an inside caliper. So you could set this up to a standard bore, like maybe with a ring gauge or something like that, and then zero the indicator and then use this to compare to a bore. Alright, now I got a few other items here. Let me clear the bench and we'll take a look at what else I got. A couple quick notes before I move on. This is actually a commercially made boring head. I could just make out that it says ABC on it. And I looked it up, and sure enough, I found a couple of photographs of ABC boring heads and could see the part that's missing off the back here. It looks like a pretty standard flange mount with a straight shank on it on the ones that I found online. So it should be easy enough for somebody to make up one of those if they want to. And I actually did check, and this does move smoothly, so that could be a nice little boring head for somebody who wants to make the part. And then these collets, these are actually mongrel collets. They're a little unusual. This is a 1AM. This Hardinge one is a 1AM. And it turns out apparently that was made for certain Ames lathes. So that's that one. And then this one, I don't know what it is. It's got a bunch of stuff scratched on here, but I don't know. This is the one that's got the stop already in it. But this also looks like it might be like some weird collet, like a 3H or something like that. Although 3H isn't that weird, but you know what I mean. It's not a standard collet. So, and here's another item I picked out of their scrap pile. And took one look at this and realized that this is a follow rest for a lathe. Might be for a South Bend Heavy 10, I'm not sure. I may never know what it goes to. But the reason why I grabbed it was I figured, well, either A, I'm going to figure out what lathe it goes to, and then I could probably sell it for a decent amount of coin. Or, quite frankly, I could probably adapt this to work on one of my lathes. I don't know if it's going to be worth it, but still, follow rests are, when they go missing and people are looking for them, they tend to be kind of pricey. But, maybe this came off of some obscure lathe that nobody cares about. I don't know. So for those of you who don't know what a follow rest is, if you know what a study rest is, A steady rest mounts to the bed of the lathe, and it's used for supporting long pieces, so that when you're doing like a turning operation, the pressure of the cutter doesn't cause too much deflection in the long piece. A following rest like this, it's called a following rest because this actually is mounted on the carriage of the lathe, so it moves with the cutter as you go along the piece. Speaking of steady rests, look at this nice little steady rest right here. So that's off a small bench lathe. Again, could very well easily be South Bend, or might be something else. I'll do a little bit of research. I actually have a small South Bend that I was going to be cleaning up and maybe using here in the shop for smaller stuff. So this might fit on that, I don't know. So this would sit on one of the ways, and then there would have been a clamp part that's missing here to help clamp it down in position on the ways. I also had this sitting there. This is this might be a Boston gear. Yeah, this is a Boston gear reduction unit. I don't know why I keep buying these, because I never get around to selling any of them, and I never get around to making any projects with them. I just know that they're very expensive new. So this one right here, oddly enough, instead of being rated with a ratio like a lot of them, it actually gives an input RPM of 1750, which is a standard electric motor RPM. And then input horsepower 0.333 by the looks of it. Oh, there it is, ratio 60. So it's a 60 to 1. Which simply means that for every 60 rotations of this shaft, this will rotate 1 revolution. You just have to sale on those on Marketplace. Just take a picture of all the different ones I have and blow them out for like, $20 a piece or something, I don't know. Oh, another boring head. So this is kind of funky. This is an R8. Well, it's really more like a fly cutter. Patent pending by the something tool company of Something Bluff, Missouri. Looks like BMT2-101. I don't know. Who cares? And last, got whatever's in these boxes. I don't even remember what's in here. This says left. Carbide tipped tool bits. Oh, alright. So... oh, these are also left. They're all left. Yep. New old stock. And what do we have in here? Seiko course thread. They spelt course, C-O-U-R-S-E, like a course in college. I took a thread course in college, and I did really well. Threading tool. Oh, well, let's see what we got here. This might be exciting. That's exactly what it is. Snap Tap CER 100 5-220. Made in the USA. Oh, this has been modified. Well, somebody wanted to fit this on a holder that they had, so they ground it down. Still usable though, if we can get those inserts. If this is the original. Yeah, it is. This is the original holder for it. CER 100 Seiko, or Seiko, whatever. Alright, this might have been a short and boring one, I don't know. See you next time.